Welcome back, everybody. In my last video on getting good deals on used camera gear, I talked a little bit about a camera that I had bought. I think it was the same day I recorded that video that I also got a great deal on. I just gotten it, and I didn't want to talk too much about it until I had a chance to put it through its paces. So that's what we're going to talk about today. For the last couple of weeks, I've been shooting my new-to-me Sony A7 IV. I've been putting it through the paces with time lapses, photography, and videography, and I'm really happy with what I've found. I've been in the market for a camera like this for a while. I'm a long-time Canon and Micro Four Thirds shooter, and I like both systems. Canon hasn't supported third-party lenses nearly as much as other brands, and that kind of has been frustrating because there's some neat lenses out that they don't have represented. And Micro Four Thirds is great for a lot of things, but in super low light situations or when I need maximum resolution, they really don't get the job done. And I'm both a photographer and a videographer, so I wanted something that was a good hybrid. I was able to get a really great deal on this camera using the techniques that I talked about in that last video. The Sony A7 IV runs about $2,500 as I'm recording this. I was able to get the camera, 2 batteries, a cage, and a battery grip, all for $1,500. If getting great deals is interesting to you, I do have a link in the description to my previous video that discusses that a little bit more. For people unfamiliar with the camera, I'll run through some highlight specs here real quick. There are other videos that have gone far more in depth when this was a brand new camera. It's still on the market, but it is getting a little bit older, so I'll just cover some of the things that were important to me here. It is a 33 megapixel backside illuminated sensor, so it's good in low light, good low noise. It does 4K 60 and a 422 color space. One thing to note about that though, it does UHD 4K, not DCI 4K. So if you need super wide cinema resolution, this isn't the camera. It has 5-axis in-body stabilization. All of my Olympus cameras have that, and I really enjoy it. It allows me to take really much longer than I should be able to handhold shots handheld. And in a lot of situations, that's super useful. Neither of my Canons have that feature, and I miss it when it's not there. And it also supports log video recording. It has Sony S-Log2 and S-Log3. Not only is its battery life pretty good, it also supports being powered off of its USB-C jack. So you can use an external power bank or something like a V-mount battery and siphon power off of it for the camera. And that's super handy for doing video. And for me, I do a lot of time lapses, and battery life keeps me from doing like an overnight time lapse or something like that. So that's going to be a feature that I'm probably going to use going forward. It has 2 memory card slots. Both support UHS 2 memory cards, and one slot supports Compact Flash Express A. Sony's the only company that uses that standard, so these cards might cost a little bit more. If you require a really high performance card, they are available for the system. And finally, on the specs, it does have a built-in intervalometer. One of my Canon cameras doesn't have that. One of my Canon cameras doesn't have that, and also doesn't have an external jack to add one, which is super frustrating. So I was happy that it has it internally. I've used it very successfully in testing, and it works very good. Using that onboard intervalometer, I shot this time lapse. I shot it using a 20mm f2.8 lens from Tamron. It's a nice affordable lens, and I picked it up used when I bought the camera. Did a really great job. The lighting was not ideal. It's been very hot, and there haven't been a lot of clouds here lately in the center of the country. So kind of had to shoot in a hard light situation just to show how the time lapse worked. But considering, it did a great job. I manually focus my time lapses, and the manual focus support features on this are great. The peaking is very easy to see. The ability to zoom in and check your focus on a real specific area works perfectly. They're very intuitive. And considering the light, I'm really happy with the result that I got. The next test, I have a Sigma 150-600 contemporary lens for my Canon system. It's the SLR version, the EF version. And Sony made a specific adapter called the MC11 that allows you to mount that lens to a Sony body. I've heard good things about it, and I have a friend that has that adapter, so I borrowed it. And I wasn't sure what to expect. Wildlife photography is very sensitive to focus speed and accuracy, so I didn't know if it was going to be up to the task with an adapted optic. And it worked great. I'll show you some shots that I got when I was out. It did a wonderful job. It has eye detect autofocus, and you can select whether it's a human, an animal, or a bird, which I think technically is an animal, but it has eye autofocus separate for all 3, and it did a fantastic job. I shot over 500 shots in a marsh preserve, and there was both blue and green heron flying around and landing, and just got some really great results. I was shooting handheld, so I move around a little bit, and I'm not the steadiest shooting platform, so even as I moved, it did a very good job of keeping stuck on the birds and getting me really great results. Next, I wanted to see how it did on video. And there are 3 sets of nested bald eagles in our area. They're starting to migrate away. I wanted to go out and see if I could get the eaglets before they left for the summer. Bald eagle nests are protected by law during the mating season, and that protection ends here in a week or so, but usually they've flown on by then. So you can't approach really close. So these are probably 600, 700, 800 feet away. Not an ideal situation. I did shoot this in 4K, and since I render in 1080 for these videos, I was able to zoom in a little bit and get a titch closer. And also the nest is pretty shaded this time of year, so I had to overexpose a little bit to get a good view of them. Considering the extremely high wind, hot temperature, which can cause some distortion in the air, it did a super good job. Manually focusing a super telephoto lens can be a challenge. Again, with the focus aids, it did fine. I did stabilize this footage in post, but I think it looks really good. And finally, I'm using the Sony 85mm 1.8 on the camera now. I'm using the Sony A7 IV to record this talking head part of my video, and it's tracking me just fine. I'm looking in the monitor there, and I seem to be in pretty sharp focus. I did some tests earlier, and it tracked really well, so it's pretty good at hanging with me, and I didn't even turn on human eye detection. I think it's still on bird eye detection, but it seems to be doing a good job. So for talking head work, I think this camera is perfect. And finally, are there things that I don't like about this camera? I've only had it for a couple of weeks, and I only really have 2 minor gripes. One, it's a new menu system, and that's not really Sony's fault. Every time I've changed cameras, getting used to a new menu system takes a little bit of time. And so there's a couple of things I haven't quite figured out where they hide in the menu, and I'm gonna have to sit down with the camera and figure that out. And the only other thing that I'm not in love with is the ergonomics. It's much, much, much better than the first generation of full frame cameras that they came out with for their mirrorless bodies. Those were just too small. This might actually be a little bit too big front to back for my hands. That small complaint aside, the camera worked flawlessly. I'm really happy with all of the images I got over the last 2 weeks. If you're a hybrid shooter like me, I do both stills and video. I think the resolution capabilities and size of this camera are a nice sweet spot. While there are certainly higher resolution cameras, both from Sony and others, that can be problematic if you're doing stuff like time lapses, because you're just going to go through hard drives like crazy if you're doing huge numbers of photos at really, really high resolutions. Would I like to have 4K 120? Sure, that'd be nice. Most cameras that do that have to crop in pretty significantly, or they have heat problems. So I'm pretty happy with the performance of this camera, both in video and photo. And one of the great benefits of the Sony system is the vast amount of native glass. Add to that some good autofocus adapters like the Sigma that I use to adapt DSLR glass, and there's just a gigantic number of lenses available in a wide variety of features and quality and price points. So if you're just getting started, or you have a limited budget, or just want to play with a lot of different glass, it's a great system. The focus system is solid, it's super reliable, and coming from a different system, I expected to struggle more with the controls and menu, and really it's pretty intuitive. So like I said, really no major complaints. I really like the camera. I think it's solid and a great option for people that do a variety of different kinds of shooting. If you've got a hybrid camera that you like more, or maybe you have this one and have experiences with it, please talk to us about it in the comments below. And if you have any questions at all, leave those in the comments section as well. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. This is a growing channel, and I'm really enjoying making this content, so any little help there is really appreciated. Thanks for watching. Good luck in your art journey, and we'll see you next time.